Now, together with my deputy, Sabine Veillant, we participate on a regular basis at the General Affairs Council, where we take stock in an objective way of the state of negotiations. 3.5 weeks before the European Council, in other words. And at a point in time when, well, the clock is ticking. Time is short. I'm concerned because of the shortage of time between now and next autumn, because it's next autumn, in fact, in a few months' time, that we are going to have to conclude an agreement with the UK on the conditions for its orderly withdrawal from the European Union in line with its wishes. Tomorrow the College of Commissioners will, well, first of all discuss and then subsequently adopt a draft text for this withdrawal agreement. Now, subsequent to this, I will present this draft text to you. It will be up for discussion with the member states and together, obviously, with the European Parliament. And it's only subsequent to this discussion among the 27 and together with the European Parliament that this draft will be placed on the negotiating table with the UK, and that as soon as possible. Having said that, to be able to continue to move forward in full transparency, and this is something I've become accustomed to doing since the beginning of this work, this publication of this text will be useful not only for you and your work as journalists, but also for everybody, so that everybody can get a clear vision and a clear picture of the issues upon which an agreement is needed. And I think this publication will also be useful because it will feed into the public debate, which is very close to my heart and which will highlight all the issues at stake as part of Brexit. As we move towards our meeting tomorrow and this publication, I would like to say that there are no surprises in this draft text. It will incorporate in a legal form 168 articles, 120 pages. It will be a legal representation of the commitments we entered into in December, as set out in the joint report, on the rights of citizens, including the procedures which need to be simple for citizens in the EU and the UK, the financial arrangements, financial settlement, and of course the issue of Ireland, which is a very important point, where tomorrow, as I said, the political commitments we entered into with the UK in December will be transposed into a legal text. This is something we are going to do on one point, which entails our responsibility in the European Union, because it is our responsibility to maintain the single market and its integrity, while at the same time ensuring that we maintain all the dimensions of the Good Friday Agreement as well. We are going to do this by rendering operational the backstop, which has been clearly set out in what we call paragraph 49 of the joint report. Option 3, which I will repeat is our responsibility. Now, in saying this, and this is something I will be confirming to you tomorrow, we are clearly ready to get down to work straight away on the other options in paragraph 49, options 1 and 2. Options for which the UK has committed itself to submitting concrete proposals. And as soon as we have received these, we and I will work upon these in parallel. These 3 options, above and beyond, as I said, the concerns we've got to render things operational tomorrow, to ensure that we have clarity for all concerned, that we're able to maintain stability and all the dimensions of the Good Friday Agreement also. The text I will be submitting tomorrow also contains our position on other withdrawal-related issues, subjects on which since December there has not been any progress, and in many cases on which there have been no negotiations, which is a matter of concern to me. I do hope that on the basis of a legal text, a draft withdrawal treaty in other words, I do hope that we'll be able to move forward more easily. And finally, this draft text tomorrow will contain our text on the transition, which you're familiar with because it was published a few weeks ago and it has been subject to quite a bit of discussion together with the 27 member states and together with the Parliament. And on this subject, I would say, and this is something I said to the ministers, there are significant points of disagreement with the UK as to what we understand by transition, the conditions for such, and the dimensions of such a transition. For example, the duration of the transition. Logically enough, we wished it to end on the 31st of December 2020, at the same time as the multi-annual financial framework period. The UK, it seems, would like to maintain this duration open-ended, which is not possible. There is also disagreement with regard to the dynamic implementation or application, rather, of the acquis during the transition period. All of the acquis is maintained. Customs union, European policies, single market. And obviously, everybody has got to comply with the same rules. As far as we are concerned, we cannot accept the danger or the risk of regulatory divergence during the transition period. And then the way citizens' rights are dealt with. Here, once again, there is a point of divergence. The British would like to differentiate between citizens who arrived before the withdrawal date, in other words, before the 29th of March 1919, and those who might have arrived afterwards, in other words, during the transition period. Now, during the transition period, clearly the fourth freedom, well, the first of those four, the free movement of persons, must be maintained, which means that citizens who have arrived before and indeed who arrived during the transition period should be treated equitably and in the same manner.
Il y a aussi une divergence sur la possibilité d'opt-in en matière de justice et d'affaires intérieures et sur les accords internationaux et sur la participation du Royaume-Uni au comité d'experts et enfin sur les mécanismes de consultation, par exemple pendant la période de transition concernant la pêche ou la politique étrangère et de défense. Donc ça fait beaucoup de divergences.
Or say fisheries. So quite a lot of points of disagreement.
Compte tenu de ces divergences,
in the light of that,
ce qui me concerne objectivement,
I would say objectively, and this is
sur
something
l'évaluation
but
que je vous ai dite
I maintain the evaluation I gave you about 3 weeks ago,
à ce stade,
which is
compte tenu
that
de ces
in the light of
divergences,
these
la
disagreements,
transition
we
n'est
have
pas
not
acquise.
achieved the
Je suis
transition
évidemment
yet.
prêt à en discuter rapidement.
Now, for all of these points of
Tous ces points de
disagreement, I'm
divergence
quite
avec
happy to
David Davis,
discuss these matters straight away with David
essentiel que
Davis.
nous
It's essential
progressions
that
par
we
une
make
discussion
progress
politique,
by means of political
négociations
discussions,
politiques au-delà
political
de
negotiations,
tout
above
l'éclairage
and
et
beyond
toute
all
l'évaluation
the
technique
technical points of
que nous faisons en ce
clarification,
moment, et
which we
aujourd'hui
are
même et
working on
hier
at the moment.
encore avec les
Just
Britanniques,
yesterday,
nous
together
devons
with the UK, I
progresser
made it clear that we do need to
ensemble
make progress on
sur
these
ces
subjects as
sujets.
well together.
Voilà.
And
Un mot
finally,
enfin
what
sur
on-
la future
on our future
relation.
relations.
Depuis décembre, nous avons
Together
organisé
with
avec le Conseil
the Council, we've had 12
12 séminaires de
preparatory internal
préparation interne
seminars since December,
avec les États
together
membres,
with the member
en
states.
parallèle d'ailleurs.
These have been in
réunions ont été
parallel
tenues
with
avec le
meetings
Parlement
together with the
européen
European Parliament on
sur ces sujets
subjects
comme
such as
l'aviation, la
aviation,
pêche,
fisheries,
la
security,
sécurité, la
defense,
défense, la politique étrangère.
foreign policy, and
Et ces
these
séminaires
seminars
sont
have been
extrêmement utiles
extremely useful for
pour
us
nous, pour
to allow us
construire
to
cette compréhension
build, to
commune de
create
tous
this
les
common
enjeux
understanding of what's
pour
at
tous ces
stake in all of
secteurs,
these various sectors,
en
while
réaffirmant
of course
évidemment
restating,
à la fois les
first of all,
principes
the
qui sont ceux de
principles
notre identité européenne,
represent our European identity, in other words, the
l'intégrité du marché
integrity of the
intérieur,
single market, the
l'indivisibilité
indivisibility
des
of the four
quatre
freedoms,
libertés,
the
l'autonomie non
non-negotiable
négociable
decision-making
décision
autonomy
des
of the
27,
27,
et en
and in
demandant qu'on
asking for
comprenne
a
bien,
clear
que tout le monde
and
comprenne
correct
bien
understanding of these
Quels sont ces
principles,
principes
which
qui sont
are
les
our
nôtres et
principles,
au nom desquels je négocie,
on the basis of which I'm negotiating, and
en
of
tenant
course
compte
taking
aussi des
account
lignes
also
rouges
of the
que
red
le
lines
Royaume-Uni a
which
lui-même
the
posées,
UK has
que nous
applied to
travaillerons le
itself,
moment venu
that
au
we
Conseil européen
will
qui aura
continue to
dans quel
work, and the
cadre
European
et avec
Council will
quel
decide on the
mandat
framework and the mandate for
sur la future
future
relation.
relations. I would
Je
also
tiens
point
aussi à
out,
dire que je veux le
and
remercier.
I'm grateful
Nous travaillons
for
en
the fact that
totale
we are
confiance
working
avec le Parlement
in a
européen
complete spirit of
sur
trust
tous
with
ces
the European
sujets. Voilà,
Parliament
je
on
vous
all this.
remercie.
Thank you.
Mr. Barnier, two questions. One, do you share Mr. Tusk's view that the three baskets proposal is based on illusions and totally involved in cherry picking? And secondly, an Irish MEP, Northern Irish MEP, has just described the suggestion of regulatory alignment between North and South of Ireland as intolerable interference in the internal affairs of the United Kingdom. How do you respond to that?
We'll take your first question first. The answer is yes. I agree with the President of the European Council. We can't possibly imagine a situation in which we would accept cherry picking. We are responsible for guaranteeing the integrity of the single market. The UK knows what the rules are, which underpin that integrity, because they've been helping us put them together for the last 40 years. You'll see tomorrow the legal content of what we intend to come forward with as a proposal. I haven't heard what you have heard. In December, we made the joint report public, and in the joint report there's a clear framework laid out for Ireland, which was agreed to by the UK, which respected the institutional framework of the United Kingdom. And if you refer to paragraph 49 thereof, there are three options which both the UK and ourselves envisaged, which were intended to guarantee the preservation of the Good Friday Agreement in all its aspects. And in that document you will find the third option in particular, which is the relevant one, which is the one that talks about regulatory alignment if there is no other solution. Now, I don't mind if there are other solutions. We are happy to work in parallel on all the solutions, but as things stand here and now, our responsibility is to make sure that in the withdrawal agreement we are able to render operational solutions which would make it possible for us to honour the commitments we've entered into vis-à-vis the Good Friday Agreement. And if you get a better solution that comes along in the meantime, then that will supersede option 3. But we cannot leave the Irish question pending.
We have time for one more, Adam.
Thank you. Adam Fleming from the BBC. I have about 50 questions, but I'll boil it down to a couple. You said that for the transition period, the UK wants an open-ended transition period. Now, the UK officials have told us over and over again they want a time-limited period. Are you saying they actually want an open-ended transition with no end date? Or have you perhaps misrepresented their position here today? Secondly, Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary, this morning on the radio said that solving the Northern Irish border issue could be as easy as solving how they manage traffic going from different bits of London to another bit of London when he was Mayor of London. Do you think he's kind of missing the point? Does he get it? Or does that prove that he doesn't understand these issues?
Comptez pas sur moi.
Now, don't count on me today or tomorrow, any more than yesterday, indeed, to make comments on comments or to indulge in polemics. I am focused, and I will continue to be focused with all of my time and energy right up to the end of this to organize the orderly withdrawal of the UK, in line with its wishes and in line with the general interest. My task is clearly to deliver on this orderly withdrawal in full respect of the single market and the principles which are reasserted regularly by the European Council. So for me, what counts here is obviously what the British Prime Minister says. I think it's got to be clear that the transition period must be short. We suggested 21 months to base ourselves specifically upon the end of 2020, in other words, the end of the current budgetary period, the MFF. That's the simplest option. Mrs. May said more or less 2 years, and if we look at the documents, we've heard and seen suggestions as to leaving it open-ended. Now, I hope there's no misunderstanding here, but I would just specify that this period must be short. It must be clearly specified in time. And for the moment, this is clearly the line we are pursuing, a period ending on the 31st of December 2020. And if there are no issues with regard to this duration, so much the better, although I'm not sure of that for the moment. But indeed, that is one of the points where we feel that there is a level of divergence, and we're going to have to talk about that with the UK.
Thank you, both of you, for your participation. Thank you all. Have a good day.
We read tomorrow morning.